There is a prayer you have been praying your whole life that you never once meant to pray. You did not kneel down to say it. You did not fold your hands or close your eyes. You simply spoke it out loud over and over again about your life, about your future, about yourself. And heaven heard every single word. Hear me carefully today because this could change the entire direction of your life. The Bible says something staggering in Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Read that slowly. Life and death. Not just influence, not just a mood. Life and death are sitting right there on the end of your tongue. Every single day with your own mouth, you are either speaking life over your future or you are quietly speaking death. And here is the part that should stop you cold. God takes your words more seriously than you do. In Numbers 14, when his people stood at the very edge of their promise and spoke nothing but fear and defeat, God said this back to them. As surely as I live, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. The exact thing they said with their own mouths became the exact thing they received. Their words wrote their future. So today I want to walk you through 5 curses that millions of believers are praying over themselves every single day without ever realizing it. These are not spells. They are not coming from some witch or some enemy out there. They are coming from your own lips. And here is the good news. The same mouth that has been speaking the curse is the mouth that can break it. Curse number 1. I can't. It sounds so harmless, so ordinary. I can't do this. I could never pull that off. That is just not possible for someone like me. You say it a dozen times a day without thinking twice, but every time you say it, you are siding with your limitations instead of siding with your God. And whatever you keep agreeing with, you give permission to come true. This is the exact mistake that cost an entire generation their promised land. God brought the people of Israel right up to the border of everything he had promised them. 12 men went in to scout it out. 10 of them came back trembling and listened closely to the words they spoke about themselves. They said in Numbers 13, "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Grasshoppers. That was not what God said about them. That was what they said about themselves. And do you know what happened? Every word came true. They saw themselves as too small, too weak, too incapable, and they spent the next 40 years wandering in a desert because of it. Here is the truth they forgot. The problem was never the giants in the land. The problem was the grasshopper in their own mouth. How you see yourself will always find its way into how you speak, and how you speak will always find its way into how you live. So, stop agreeing with your weakness. The next time I can't rises up in your throat, catch it and replace it. Declare it instead. I can do all things through Christ, who gives me strength. Curse number 2. I'm worthless. I always ruin everything. This is the curse of self-condemnation, and it is one of the cruelest of them all because you are not merely predicting your failure, you are attacking your own identity. I'm such an idiot. I always mess things up. I'm just not good enough. I never have been. And every time those words leave your mouth, you are not describing yourself. You are cursing yourself. You are calling yourself a name that God never once called you. Look at Gideon. When the angel of the Lord came to him, Israel was being crushed by its enemies, and Gideon was hiding in a winepress, frightened for his life. And the very first words out of the angel's mouth were these: "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior. To a man who was hiding. But listen to how Gideon answered. He said, "How can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my whole family." Do you see the gap there? God called him a mighty warrior. Gideon called himself the least and the weakest. God was speaking his destiny. Gideon was speaking his fear. And here is what is beautiful. God did not argue with him for an hour. He simply kept calling Gideon what he had always known him to be. And eventually Gideon rose up and became the very warrior God had said he was. He had to stop answering to the name he gave himself and start answering to the name God gave him. You are not the name your failures have handed you, so stop repeating it and declare what is actually true. I am not who my failures say I am who God says I am. Curse number 3. Nothing ever works out for me. This is the curse of expectation. It is when you have decided somewhere deep down that life itself is against you, and so you announce it everywhere you go. Of course, this happened to me. Nothing good ever lasts. Why am I even surprised? It always goes wrong in the end. And every time you speak it, you train your own eyes to see only the bad, and you train your own heart to expect the worst. Think about Jacob in the book of Genesis. He had lost his son Joseph years before, or so he believed. Now a famine had struck his son. Simeon was being held in Egypt, and they were demanding he send his youngest, Benjamin. And Jacob threw up his hands and cried out, "Everything is against me. Everything is against me." But here is the thing that breaks your heart once you know the rest of the story. At that very moment, nothing was against him. His son Joseph was not dead at all. He was alive. He was second in command over all of Egypt, and he was about to rescue the entire family and save their lives. Everything Jacob was calling a curse was actually God setting up the greatest deliverance of his life. Understand this. What looks like everything falling apart is so often God arranging everything to come together. But if your mouth is busy declaring your defeat, you will miss the rescue that is already on the way. So stop announcing your doom before you have seen the end of the story, and declare it instead. What looks like it is against me, my God is working for me. Curse number 4, I'll never change. This is just who I am. This may be the most paralyzing curse of all because it does not only predict your future, it locks the door and throws away the key. I've always been this way. I'll never beat this thing. This is just my temper, my weakness, my habit. It is who I am. And the moment you declare that, you stop even trying because you have already read the sentence over yourself. There is a man in John chapter 5 who had been an invalid for 38 years, lying beside a pool waiting for a healing that never seemed to come. 38 years. That is a long time to make peace with being stuck. And then Jesus walked up to him and asked the strangest question. Do you want to get well? Notice that the man did not even say yes. He immediately reached for his excuses. I have no one to help me. Someone always steps in ahead of me. He had lived in that condition so long that he could no longer picture himself free of it. But Jesus cut straight through all of it and said 3 simple words. Get up, walk. And the man who had been stuck for 38 years stood up and walked out completely healed. Hear this clearly. Just because something has been true about you for years does not mean it has to stay true for one more day. This is just who I am is not a fact. It is a sentence you keep choosing to read over your own life. So stop confessing your chains as if they can never be broken, and declare it. I am not stuck. By the power of God, I am changing. Curse number 5. And this is the most important one of all. I'm too far gone. God could never use someone like me. This is the curse the enemy fights the hardest to keep on your lips, because it is the one that kills your destiny at the root. You look at your past. You look at what you have done, the ways you have failed the people you have hurt, the years you feel you have wasted, and you whisper the verdict over your own soul. It is too late for me. I have disqualified myself. God may use other people, but never someone like me. Let me tell you about a man who said something far worse than that. His name was Peter. On the night Jesus needed him most, Peter denied that he even knew him. And he did not deny it quietly. The Bible says in Matthew 26 that Peter began to call down curses on himself, swearing, I do not know the man. He cursed his own self. He failed in the worst possible way at the worst possible moment. If anyone had ever earned the right to say, I am too far gone, it was Peter on that night. But that is not where his story ends. After the resurrection, Jesus came looking for Peter again. And 3 times once for each denial, Jesus gently asked him, Do you love me? And 3 times he told him, Feed my sheep. Jesus did not disqualify the man who had cursed himself. He restored him. He handed the keys of the entire church to the very man who had failed him the hardest. Your failure is not the end of your story. It is the place where the mercy of God begins. So stop reading your past as your final sentence and declare it out loud today. I am not too far gone. I am called, I am forgiven, and I am restored. So hear me before you go. You have spent years speaking over your own life without ever realizing the weight of the words you were using. But today, that ends. Every curse you have ever prayed over yourself can be broken by the same mouth that first spoke it, the very moment you stop agreeing with the enemy and start agreeing with God. This is not about pretending your problems do not exist. It is about refusing to give them the final word. When the lie says, "I can't," you answer it with what God says. When it says, "I'm worthless," you answer it with what God says. Jesus told us in Matthew 12 that we will give an account for every careless word we speak. Your words are not empty, they are seeds. And whatever you plant with your mouth, you will eventually eat with your life. So starting today, plant something different. Speak life over your home. Speak life over your children. Speak life over your future. And most of all, speak life over yourself, because the same God who spoke the entire world into being made you in His own image. And He placed a measure of that very power on your tongue. If this message reached you, share it right now with someone who has been speaking death over their own life. And write in the comments, "I break every curse I have spoken over myself." Because the same voice that has been agreeing with your defeat can begin this very moment to call down your destiny.